Ticket number 16960. Filter not locked when opening user activity report. So when opening the user activity report by clicking a cell in the username column of the last activity for each user report, the filter of the user activity report is not being locked, allowing users to modify or clear data. So if we come to the system module and we look at the user activity report, these are the same filters that are in question here: the user account, the from date, and the for last date. So if we come to the actual last activity for each user, and then we drill down on a username, we can see that these filter options that were in the user activity report are now not visible in the last activity for each user report. Ticket number 16950. Create action item parents endpoint. So if we come to Postman, we come down to the action items and the action items data. Let's look for FSA action items. Now we've returned some action items. Let's copy the hash value of this top one. We'll then come down to the action item parents. So we now have FSA action items / hash value / parents. That should then show us the parents for that FSA action item. And here we can see it exists under Clampit, which is the enterprise level. And also the Beverly Hills Refinery, which is the site level. We can filter further if we filter on the parent type ID, being site. We're now returning just the one record, which shows us that this FSA action item exists in the Beverly Hills Refinery site. Ticket number 16943. Tooltip in Applicable IPLs column of initiating cause grid has incorrect cascading style sheet formatting. So if we look at the image attached to the ticket, we can see that the formatting is incorrect here. So if we come to the LOPA module, we come down to a LOPA study and select a LOPA worksheet. If we come to the applicable values template, we scroll down to the initiating causes table and hover over the applicable IPLs, we can see that the formatting error has now been corrected. Ticket number 16942. Tables in Initiating Causes grid of Applicable Values tab in LOPA worksheet have incorrect cascading style sheet formatting. So in the LOPA worksheets, under the Applicable Values tab, the tables within the Initiating Causes grid do not display with the correct CSS formatting, or the formatting is not being applied as expected, and this is leading to an inconsistent look. So if we take a look at the image attached, we can see that the CSS is incorrect and some of the tables are incomplete. So if we come to the LOPA module, we come to a LOPA study and select a LOPA worksheet. If we come to the applicable values template, if we scroll down to the initiating causes table and scroll across, we can see that the CSS has been corrected and the tables are now displaying correctly. Ticket number 16941. Information window of hazard register column in HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios grid has incorrect cascading style sheet formatting. So in the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios grid, the information window displayed for the hazard register column does not apply the correct CSS format. This causes inconsistent styling compared to the rest of the grid and affects readability. So if we just have a look at the image attached to this ticket, we can see this window here is not displaying correctly. So if we come to the HAZOP module, we select a HAZOP study, we come to the Facilitation template, we come down to the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios table and scroll across and click on the information window, we can see that this is now formatting correctly. Another area we can see this within SLM, if we come to the unit, come to the HAZOP DRM template, If we drill down here, scroll across to the hazard register and hover here, we can see that the formatting is correct in here as well. Ticket number 16940. Y-axis scale does not include plotBand value in chart. So if we look at the image attached, we can see that in the chart component, when a plotBand is configured with a value higher than the maximum data point, the y-axis scale is not adjusting to include it. So we can see the assumed credit is 130, and yet the y-axis only goes up to a maximum of 100. So if we come to SLM, we come to Instrumented Systems, and we come down and select a CIF. If we come to the RRF by type template, we can see that the RRF value is 130, and the y-axis has expanded to accommodate this value. Ticket number 16938. Pie chart not rendering properly when all series values are equal to 0. So in the serial chart component, when all the series values are 0, the chart doesn't render the axes or the grid, only the legend and the title are shown, which may confuse users and it looks like the chart is broken or missing data. So if we now come to Instrumented Systems, select a CIF, then we come to the PDF by type template. If we scroll down, we can see that the prior use pie chart is now displaying a watermark when all data values are 0. Ticket number 16937. Chart gauge displays incorrectly when the value is equal to 0. So in the chart gauge component, when the value is 0, the gauge is not rendering correctly. Only the needle is displayed and the visualization looks incomplete, which may confuse users. So if we come to SLM and the System module, if we come down to Activity Reports and the User Activity Report, if we select a user, for the purpose of this exercise, we'll select a date in the future so as no data is present, and generate. We come down to the bottom, we can see even though the value is 0, the chart gauges are displaying correctly. Ticket number 16936. Chart gauge title and value are not centered. So if we look at the attached image, we can see that this is causing a visual inconsistency and making the chart harder to read. So if we come to SLM, we come to the System module. If we come to SLM Accounts and Roles, if we expand the Activity Report and the last activity for each user, if we select a user and scroll down, we can now see that both the value and the title are center aligned. Ticket number 16933. Issue with deleting unwanted Recommendation Category Dropdowns. So if we come to the System module and we expand the dropdowns, we scroll down to the Recommendation category, so to remove one of these options, we use Sprint Test for this example. If we click on the Delete button, we'll then confirm the deletion and now save changes. We can see that that option was successfully deleted and has been removed from the table. Ticket number 16928. Add functionality for configuring visible HAZOP facilitation table fields. So the client is attempting to configure the HAZOP template to remove fields from the HAZOP Facilitation tab on the table that deals with the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios within a certain node. So we've added a setting on the Enterprise object that allows users to use a checkbox to pick which fields on the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios table within the Facilitation tab are visible. This will be similar to the cause and effects matrix functionality, but instead of the selection effect in one HAZOP table, it sets the template for the enterprise. So if we come to the HAZOP module currently, and we take a look at a HAZOP node, under the Facilitation tab, this is the table in question, the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios. So we're adding the option for the user to set at the enterprise level which of these fields will be visible. So if we come to the global module at the enterprise level, we now have a module configuration option here. So if we click inside here, currently we have all of the options selected. So if we now come and remove all of the options, and we'll just select cause, cause source, cause type, likelihood, and let's add the IEF as well, and save those changes. We can see that's reflected within here now. So let's again come to the HAZOP module. Let's come back to that same node. And we can see that the HAZOP Deviations and Scenarios table is now only displaying the ID, cause, cause source, cause type, cause likelihood, and the IEF column. These changes will affect this specific table within any site or unit within this enterprise.